guys, and welcome to episode number 4 of the Danny Batten MMA show, only on Ace Podcast Nation. I'm your host, Sai. Here at Ace Podcast Nation, we've got all sorts of shows, from anything from combat sports to football to mental health. I recently had an interview with the author of controversial book, The Killing of Emiliano Sala, which I released in 3 parts over the weekend. The video version and the audio version will be out Monday of this week, so that's Monday the 20th. It's really, really interesting. Obviously, you know, everyone is well familiar with the death of the footballer Emiliano Sala, but what some people won't have realised is some of the controversy behind the scenes and some of the things which were involved in his travel and the subsequent investigation afterwards. So it was very interesting to speak to this author whose name is Harry Harris. He's a top investigative journalist and author. He's worked with the Telegraph and many other newspapers exposing corruption, and he's written autobiographies for Glenn Hoddle. He's written a book on Pele. He's a very successful journalist. He spent his last week on national radio, actually, doing the rounds, promoting his book for sort of 10 minutes here and there. And then Friday morning, he gave me nearly 2 hours of his time for a long interview. And I'm very grateful for that, for someone of his stature. And obviously, he's been on TalkSport and Love Sport and all these different radio stations. And then to come on, a small channel, which is, growing rapidly. But I'm still grateful and pleased and proud to have him on. I feel like I asked the questions that people wanted to ask him, particularly about the title of the book being a bit brutal. He explained, and it was very interesting. So I released the 3 parts of the interview over the weekend, and the audio version is out as well now as this show goes out. You can find all our shows, in fact, video versions at youtube.com/AcePodcastNation. If you could subscribe and click the bell to that, I'd be eternally grateful. That's the best way to support us. As we try to get up to the 1,000 subscriber mark, so we can try and make some pennies from doing these shows. But that's not the aim, that is the aim, but that's not the reason we do it. We do it for the love. Audio versions, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all those good stuff. Check out the weekly football show every Wednesday, the Andy Campbell Championship show, which is a lot of fun. And we've also got something special coming up shortly, which I'll talk about in a minute. But before that, I'd like to introduce the man of the hour, the man for the expert analysis, former Cage Warriors featherweight champion of the world, and top man all round, Mr. Danny Batten. Welcome, my friend. How are you?
Hello, Si. Good to be back again.
Indeed, and it's what a show to start 2020. Woof.
Yes, it's been a good one. I enjoyed the prelims as well. I know it's not what you normally talk about, but there was really good prelims fights as well. I like to watch those to see if any of these up and coming talents that I think are going to be of note for the future. They're always good to look out for.
Yeah. It's always. Do you know what? I usually do watch them. I just have been all over the place today, so I kind of watched the main card, and I will. I'll probably go back to the prelims tomorrow because I've heard they're pretty good. I've read about them and stuff. Obviously, the news broke this week that someone from your gym has recently signed for the UFC. Modestas, who is the current Cage Warriors light heavyweight champion, I think.
That's right, the light heavyweight world champion for Cage Warriors.
I'm not going to do him the disservice of trying to pronounce his surname. I will get it right.
I'm not really good with names either.
So we'll go with Modestas. He's agreed, fresh off his UFC signing, to come and do an episode of Unscripted Uncensored with us.
That'll be a good one.
It'll be. I'm really looking forward to. Obviously, it's another top British fighter for us to have on the show. We've had Tom Mearns, we've had Jack Shaw, we've had Brett Johns, we've had yourself, we've had Lee Remedios, we've had boxers and footballers and all sorts. I always love doing the Unscripted Uncensored show. One didn't involve any preparation for me beforehand, looking into people's kind of career and stats and what I want to ask them. It's just hands of people and they ask what they want and they can go wherever it goes. But I'm really looking forward to that. There's posts on the podcast Facebook page and the page for the podcast. They're both pinned, so you can send in your questions. Talk doesn't have to be questions. It could be talking, whatever you want to talk about, or what you want to hear Modestas' views on. and you can also send to our email address, which is on there, and DMs, and send them anywhere you want, and send as many as you want. You're not limited to one question or anything like that. We want the more, the better. So just before we get into Modestas' signing with the UFC, I just wanted to thank our sponsors for today. Today's show is brought to you by Away Day Apparel, which I'm modeling another T-shirt from them. Away Day Apparel is a group of casually obsessed football fans looking to bring something different to the wardrobes of like-minded people. Please visit their website, awaydayapparel.co.uk. The links will be in the description. I highly recommend that you give them a follow on Twitter, at Away Day Apparel, and Instagram as well, particularly at @awayday_apparel. 2020 is going to be a very big year for them. Some very interesting, exciting stuff coming, which I've had a little sneak peek of. Some of the stuff, and it's quite nice. And also, as a special treat, just for listeners and viewers of Ace Podcast Nation, you can have 10% off all orders if you use the code AA Podcast Nation. It's case sensitive, so all lowercase, and that's AA Podcast Nation for 10% off all your orders for Away Day Apparel. Thank you very much to them for sponsoring the show. And thank you for the numerous T-shirts which they gave me the other day, which was pretty awesome. So I've got like a different one for every day. So, Modestas signed with the UFC. I don't think it was a massive shock to anyone who follows, MMA. It seemed like the next logical step for him. But you must be a proud guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, the first fighter that I've had big influences on, to help someone get to the UFC. I've had people obviously numerous times get into Bellator, which is one of the biggest shows in the world. But everyone wants to have dealings with the UFC. So I can finally say, I'm going to get one of my guys to have dealings with the UFC. So this is great. It's brilliant news. So happy. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy because he is one of MMA's nice guys. There's not a bad bone in his body, which can be surprising when you watch how he fights because he's all aggression.
Yeah,
but,
he's an absolute killer in the ring, isn't he?
Yeah.
In the octagon, and I just, like, when I spoke to him, I was surprised at how laid back and quite cool he was. But put him in the octagon. What will happen with the Cage Warriors championship now? Because obviously he's current light heavyweight champion.
Yeah, well, he's signed with the UFC, and they're not going to allow him to fight for any other promotion. So this potentially can go on for a good number of years. So he'll have to vacate that title. It'll go up for grabs someone else. But it opens it up for some other young lads that will eventually follow in his footsteps and many of the other Cage Warriors' footsteps. I think he was the 64th fighter to go from Cage Warriors onto UFC. So there'd be many more. It just opens a gateway for them.
Yeah, I think. Sorry, I got distracted there because someone else has just sent another question in. These people, they send them in late. It's 10 to 10 on Sunday. I said I was recording at 9, and the people are still sending these questions to me. But I'll let them off because it's my friend. But I'll tell you what, I'll ask this question now because it kind of relates to what we're talking about. He asks, is there anyone in particular in the BST gym who could follow in the footsteps of Modestas and Tom Mearns and potentially go to those those big companies anytime soon?
Yeah. Okay. Well, Tom Mearns is already in a big company,
being
that that's Bellator. So right now, he's got dealings with those with them. So to say anything about UFC would be
no. I think what he means is there anyone other than those two who are obviously in the big companies?
Yeah. I think the next one to shine through will be Jordan Bubchin, Bubnik, or however you pronounce his name. Jordan. I think he's in the Cage Warriors promotion.
Yes.
And I think he can make big waves.
But what weight is he in?
He's in featherweight. Yeah, he does. Yeah, he has
Warriors featherweight is
it's a stacked
division, isn't it? Oof.
It is. But this kid's a real talent. He really is. He's an absolute joy to watch train. This kid's enthusiastic. He's smart. He's fit. He's healthy all the time. Got a good head on his shoulders, and he listens, which is a godsend for any coach. He really listens, takes it all on board. I mean, he probably does rise his eyes above his head when he walks away. Sometimes when I have a chat with him, but he seems to take everything on board. He adapts, he changes, and he keeps evolving all the time. And not many times do I see people spar and have my eyebrows raised, and I'm like, wow, this kid's improving quick. He's a talent. I think he could be the next one. In fact, I don't doubt it.
What's his current professional record?
I think he's something like 5-1, 6-1, something along those lines now.
Wow, I tell you who he should fight without having, without thinking about it in the last 30 seconds is him and Oban Elliott would be a good fight, I think.
Yeah,
because Oban's 3-0 in Cage Warriors,
right.
he's actually undefeated in other combat sports as well. But
sure,
I think that could be a good fight. And
yeah,
there you go. That's my matchmaking.
May well happen. Yeah, but, we wouldn't turn our nose up at that. He's ready to face anyone pretty much.
That featherweight division is stacked. I mean, it's stacked in the UFC, but in Cage Warriors, you've got Paddy, you've got Jordan, you've got Oban, and there's a load of others which my mind's just gone blank. But it is a very stacked division. Obviously, you've got the champ as well. What's his name? Oh, that's going to annoy me. He was the Cage Warriors featherweight champion. I was trying to get him on the other day, so I know who it is. But yeah, Jordan's another one who's on my my list of people who I'd like to get on the podcast, because I wasn't massively familiar with him until obviously I started speaking to you when we were doing the shows, and I was talking to you, on and off air about different fighters at your gym and whatnot. And I saw some clips of him. I haven't been able to watch like a full fight, on the day or on the weekend. So I'm looking forward to when he has his kind of next fight.
Yeah.
So I can, really watch it and watch the whole show and get a feel for him, because Tom, when I had Tom Mearns on, he said pretty much exactly what you just said, that he's a top prospect.
Yeah, absolutely is. And so young as well. I think 22 years old, something like that.
It's really young. See,
so young.
Him and Oban, that would be, they're both young, both hungry, want to make that kind of next step up. So Mads Burnell is the featherweight champion, I believe.
Right.
But I could be wrong. I was trying to. Do you know what? When you type in like I say UFC featherweight division, you can pull up the rankings. Instantly. But with Cage Warriors, it's
a little trickier.
More, yeah,
I know. I tried to do it.
Sort their website out, man, to make it a bit easier.
It's not easy. I tried to do the same, but couldn't do it.
Because when you do, especially when we're doing these shows, I want to quickly, as we're talking, pull up some
and I'm terrible with names. I mean, I struggle with my own fighters' names when I'm trying to pull them up out of my head. I'm terrible for names.
Well, the problem I've got is I've been trying to message people and get them, obviously trying to get guests all the time, but particularly with fighters, I've been really messaging. I think I've got about 15 different conversations going on at the moment on LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook and stuff, where I'm trying to plan. I never want to be in a position where I'm scrambling for guests, when I want to do a show. So I'm trying to plan ahead, which is unusual for me in itself. So I'm having all these conversations, but I get confused then with names and my mind goes blank. But so I'm gonna Oban and Jordan. That's the fight I want to see, Danny. Make it happen.
Yes. Let's push for something like that. I'm happy. Like you say, it's such a stacked division.
Yeah, it is.
So many people that are pushing for a real good fight, and I'll be happy to see him fight any of those guys.
And I think when you're as young as him and indeed Oban as well, is when you're that young, it's just about getting wins under your belt and improving your skills. But I tell you what, you tell Jordan, and I'll text Oban, and we'll just turn them against each other.
Let's do some stirring, shall we?
Yeah, get it. Before you know it, they'll be throwing dollies through windows. But speaking of dollies through windows, we had the returning Connor McGregor tonight. What did you think of the show overall? Without we'll talk about it. But
I really enjoyed the show. I mean, we was kind of spoilt with the previous one that we spoke about. I mean, that was
the previous two
real
really,
up
isn't
there.
it?
Yeah, that was a real up there one. But yeah, I wasn't disappointed. I really enjoyed everything that I saw, and I was not disappointed with the result. That we know about, what we get to talk about. It was a good show. I'm happy with it all round.
Yeah, well, as I said to you before, we started off. There was a lot of grappling and jiu-jitsu and submissions. There wasn't too many knockouts on the main card, but
No.
other than I think one, maybe two fights, I thought the fights were quite exciting.
Yeah.
We have been spoiled. Obviously, the last UFC 245, the card was ridiculous. It was
Yes.
like every fight was like almost like potential main
Oh,
event of
man, yeah.
other shows. But in terms of quality of the fights, the last two cards, UFC 244 and 245, have been outstanding.
Yeah, they have been.
I didn't think this one was as good, but the return of Conor McGregor kind of knocks it up a bit in your
I think
the way
they
you look
did
at it.
I think they did it this way not to dilute any of the attention. They wanted it to be all about that fight, and so I think maybe that's why they did it this way. Possibly. I mean, they can't keep on putting just the top 2, 3,
No, of
4
course.
fighters against each other all the time, all in one event. So I think it was a good call to do it the way they've done it.
Yeah, my friend who lives in America said that he's never seen anything like it in terms of promotion, particularly ESPN. It was like every advert, every day, every show almost on ESPN, even shows which weren't related to combat sports, were this Saturday, Conor McGregor's return. It was all over the shops and everything. So I think they will do big numbers. I know they did something like 10 million Google searches last night.
Wow.
People searching for either McGregor or UFC 245.
Sure.
And when you think of that in a number, that's
incredible.
That is incredible. And I always think, like, whatever the UFC is in this unique position where, a few years ago they'd have been looking at the pay-per-view number. Is it this much? Is it going to break the records? Is it this? But they've got this weird deal with ESPN where the pay-per-view is exclusively on ESPN streaming services. So in some ways, it makes no difference to the UFC how many people bought the pay-per-view because they've already been paid for it from this deal. But obviously, ESPN's point of view, they need people to buy it to make that deal worthwhile.
Right.
But going by the numbers which have been bandied around, for Google searches, and I think the gate was something ridiculous as well. I'm sure. What did Dana say the gate was? It was a lot more than I thought it would be. I think there was 19,000 people there.
Yeah.
So Conor McGregor is the pay-per-view king. There's no doubt in that. Whether he wins or he loses, people watch him fight.
Yeah, I'm not too sure whether that it's a case of people want to watch him lose, or whether they watch him because of his incredible knockout ratio, or it's hard to know why they're watching him. But the guy brings a lot of attention to sport, and that's only but a good thing. And that's why I'm such a huge fan of him. Not always been a fan of his antics, but I'm glad to see him back. I really am. Big fan.
He's captivating character, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. And he's
in and out of the cage.
Matured. Yeah, I mean, before he had this ruthless abandonment of things he would say about his opponents, and this time he was a little bit more reserved, more respectful, almost more mature.
So I was going to ask you about that. I find it interesting. So my personal opinion is that the reason he was like that is because he likes Cowboy Cerrone, and he respects him, and he thinks he's a good guy and he's a family man and that. I think, for instance, if they end up doing Khabib rematch next, I think you'll see that ruthless side.
Yeah.
Sorry. However, I will say the Conor McGregor that we saw in the Octagon, which we'll discuss in a bit, that's the Conor McGregor that I wanted to see in the Octagon versus Khabib, and we didn't see that. So
no, we didn't. Yeah,
and whether that aspect to it.
Whether we could look at that as excuses for him losing or not.
Yes,
we won't know unless that match happens again. But it doesn't tickle my fancy to want to rush to see it again. I'd like to see him fight other people, re-legitimize himself in a more solid way, and then maybe we could talk about that Khabib and Connor rematch again.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I don't really want them to go down that route yet.
Yeah,
I
don't think Khabib wants it. I don't think even Khabib wants it right now.
We say that he's got to beat Ferguson as well.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think it's pointless to talk about because I think Ferguson certainly stylistically is much more dangerous, much more proving for Khabib than Connor. He's already been there and done it with Connor. Of course, it'd be great to see it again at some point. But this Ferguson and Khabib matchup is excellent. It's really, really good.
Ferguson's not like any other fighter in so many ways as well.
Yeah.
So the gate was 19,040.
Wow.
That's how many fans were there. The gate, they took $11 million.
My God.
That is $11 million. I know we're going to try and read that figure, but more than $11 million. That is unbelievable. And you can see why they want McGregor fit and fighting, because no other fighter does those numbers. Not one other fighter in the world at the moment does those numbers. Maybe John Jones would do these sorts of numbers with pay-per-views and gate and everything in between.
I think the unique thing with Connor, I think you both get the fans that are fans of him, and like I say, I think there's a lot of other people showing interest because a lot of people don't like him. So
they want to see him shut up, or they want to see what Khabib did.
Yeah, but either or way, in terms of UFC, in terms of attention for the sport of MMA, it's a good thing.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's move on to the card. As I say, I didn't really watch the prelims yet. Did you have anything you wanted to say about the prelims or anything?
Okay, on the prelims, let me just make sure I get these names right. I really enjoyed watching that Kamor versus Ledet. Ledet's experienced fighter, but this young lad, although it wasn't the best technical fight in the world, he really give it his all in there, and I give it to that Kamor just for his tenacity in there, and he caused an upset there. I didn't expect Ledet to lose.
That wasn't the only upset either, was it? On the prelims.
No, there was a few upsets. I really enjoyed watching Tim Elliott and Askar Askarov. Askarov looked devastating. I mean, I know that's super light, these guys, so normally you don't see outright power, but that guy had power in his hands. But Tim Elliott, wow, that's a fight that I suggest for you to really have a watch. He started nailing these big throws, and I mean big throws. He had the guy's feet right up in the air on more than one occasion. He was catching him with huge throws, but for some reason he was beginning to take over the fight, this Tim Elliott. But in the final round, he was just spent all his time taunting and putting his arms down, trying to slip the shots or receiving the shots and smiling for the whole 5 minutes, and just let the fight go, because it was 1 round apiece. Tim Elliott won the second round. Askar won the first round. And literally Tim Elliott just played the third round to a loss. And I really felt like if he just done another one of his takedowns or throws, he could have nailed the win. Bizarre. I think really bizarre.
That's where like a coach has got to scream from the sidelines and tell him, like outright, you need to push it or you need to go for it. Yeah, that's a bit of a weird one, really, isn't it? Like to fight it out like that. But I mean, in the heat of the moment, maybe. Do you think he thought that he was winning? He was up and he was comfortably winning, or has he made an error with that side of it?
I guess he got comfortable, and Askar lost his power in the third round. I think he began to get tired, and the punches were no, because Tim Elliott get rocked really badly in the first round. And could have been over so easily, but he got through it and lost that first round, and then come on well strong in the second round. And I just think once he felt the power was coming away from his opponent, he started getting confident to stand in front of him. But standing in front and when you're still getting hit and tagged, although that's not hurting you anymore, they're scoring. Yeah, it was a really strange thing to see. I was left baffled. His cornerman and his team must have been livid with him.
Yeah, they got to be, haven't they? They must have been really pissed off.
Yeah, and another one of the prelims that I really enjoyed was that Drew Dober. I think I'm pronouncing his name right. He fought that. Oh, this is a really hard name to. Nasrat Harper. He was the big favourite, and Drew Dober, was a surprising big underdog. I was surprised how bigger underdog that they put him in at, but he ran through this guy. A real turn up. I'm quite excited about seeing this kid, step up a little bit and seeing how he performs. Really, really tidy technically.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's one to look out for.
Yeah, Drew Dober was one of the ones who earned the $50,000 bonus as well. So
did he? Okay,
yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so he had a bonus. It was 5 given out. The rest were off the main card.
Right.
But I mean, he was obviously a big underdog, wasn't he? So I mean, to put in a performance like that is.
But someone so solid like that, I'm surprised that they had him as such a huge underdog. It kind of left me wondering a little bit. But he's so tidy in the pocket, and the other lad was just going at it. They was really throwing leather from the get go. But the tidy technical stand up of Dober really showed through. He stayed a little tighter. Nothing got through on him, and he got through on the other lad, and very quickly dismantled him. Impressive, yeah.
Good stuff. And then obviously you had the women's fight was the main event of the prelims, which was a big shock because Macy Barber, who was being hotly touted as the next big thing for women's MMA.
Yeah. She was unbeaten, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, she was 8-0. I think it was. Yeah. I don't think anyone expected it to be like that. But the other girl, Roxy, she's really experienced. Have had a lot of fights, and that experience showed through. Really, that's the only thing you could be left thinking that's what's happened. She had a lot of game to give. She was even landing the strikes. That's the thing. She landed strikes. She got the takedowns, controlled a lot of the ground aspects. Definitely needs to work on her mount control. She went mount in the first round, didn't she? And got overturned right in the last part of the first round. But the cornermen were calling for mount position, even though she had half guard. I think that was unnecessary. I think she stood a better chance of ground and pounding from the half guard top position, but she kept going for that mount and kept losing that top position. That was the only mistake that I saw in a game that was, a little worrying that she kept going back to. But yeah, absolutely impressive. Well done, Roxy, because that was a good scalp to take.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I've never seen a doctor be called in to look at someone's knee before. That was a first for me. But
normally it's cuts, isn't it, and things like that. But she did grab at her knee. It was an uppercut, I believe, that she got caught with, and her knee snagged, and she held at it when she went down and kind of limped back to her corner. But I go, the doctor's got to do what the doctor's supposed to do. If they see someone's that's dizzy or dazed or got a heavy cut, they have to go in and check it. Obviously they're there to protect the fighters, and they went in to inspect the knee to see whether she's fit to carry on.
Yeah, I think when someone grabs their knee and kind of puts weight on it the way she did, you're thinking she's done something, whether it's a break or like your anterior ligaments, that sort of thing. She did finish the fight and she lost in the decision, I think, wasn't it? But obviously we'll have to wait and see. I've been looking to see if there's any news on, what she's done, but there doesn't seem to be any official confirmation yet.
But that's unusual to see a journeyman female fighter come through so convincingly against someone that was unbeaten. So
when did the injury happen? Was that late on in the fight, or
it was it happened early on, but she got taken down, so she was fighting off her back, so you couldn't see any kind of issue thereafter. But clearly there was an issue when she stood up. She kind of limped a little bit and didn't look quite right on her foot. She might have just twinged it, and I've had it before in training. Even now, my knees are kind of shot. It's more of a sensation more than it is a pain. You just you feel it twist out. I just hope she's okay. Let's see her fight on. See how she gets on in the next fight. So I'm sure we'll hear something about it more in the
Well,
coming
yeah.
days.
I mean, let's be honest. Because it was her first professional loss,
Mm,
is if she has done something like long term, whether it's a break or ligaments or something,
yeah,
her team will have it out straight away
yeah,
because they
sure.
will want it known. She lost because of this.
Yeah, yeah.
Or
Well,
I just saw someone. It's the Sun, so I don't
yeah.
know how reliable. It says that she tore her ACL
Right.
about halfway through the fight.
Yeah.
So I mean,
I
that's a
think
big
bad knee
injury.
or good knee, the way the fight was going,
She
she's
was going to
obviously
lose
got
now.
some technical issues need working on.
Yeah,
She got exposed a little bit. She really did. Albeit that she was up against someone who's full of experience, which is partly what led to the fact that she lost.
yeah,
She has to go back and have a look at the way she trains and put a lot of wrongs right because it wasn't a great performance. It wasn't an expected performance, and there can only but be disappointment. And on top of that, getting an injury as well. But I think even if she didn't injure her knee with that punch, I think the fight was going to go that way anyway.
yeah. Fair enough. I'm going to watch all the prelims, but that sounds about
Yeah,
what
yeah,
I've
good prelims. Yeah, good prelims.
they
Definitely
sound
worth it.
they sound definitely worth a watch. Anyway, sometimes the prelims can be
Yeah,
exactly that. They can be prelims or they can be not very good. But for everything I've read and from what you've just
yeah,
said, they seem
yeah.
worth a watch.
Yeah, and that Sadiq, yeah, Yusuf, he was on the prelims, wasn't he?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, that was another cracking fight to watch. Um, Yusuf, he always comes in quite a big guy, doesn't he?
Mm.
And that filly's really quite slender. But Yusuf was showing incredible power. He really did, but really gassed it. He really totally different person in the third round. So obviously cutting a lot of weight. It'd be interesting how will he fare against someone who can match him with a bit of power and got a bit of cardio on him with a 5-round fight? So yeah, there's some questions to be asked. Although he pulled off the win, there was some questions to be asked about that performance, regards what happened in that third round. Maybe he just thought he was so far ahead and coasted. We could give him credit for doing that. But
Yeah,
that's another real great fight to watch.
yeah, and this is the problem with weight cutting, isn't it? Is the
Yeah,
possibility of, particularly later on in the fights, they get a bit fatigued.
yeah. I mean, I could be barking up the wrong tree with the reasons why he backed off from putting the pressure on.
Yeah,
Because when he did throw, he still threw with power, but he did allow Philly to come onto him. But that Philly impressed me. Yeah, he impressed me too. We certainly should be seeing that kid again do well. Yeah,
cool.
great prelim card.
So first fight on the main card was Anthony Pettis versus Diego Ferreira. Um,
Yes,
so a lot of people didn't like this fight for various reasons. I enjoyed watching it, but I was disappointed with Pettis's performance. I was
yeah,
expecting more.
yeah. Well, Ferreira first of all come out a bit unexpected. Keep lifting his lead leg as he went in. That was a little bit odd. It wasn't what I was expecting from him. There may have been a reason why. Maybe he got an injury in training, or just didn't like the idea, or thought his lead leg was going to be targeted by Pettis because Pettis kicks good. Yeah, so that was a little bit strange, but it didn't seem to, go against him lifting his leg like
No.
that and getting in. An error I saw in Pettis's game, which was showing up by Nate Diaz when they fought, was the fact that he give up his back a lot against the fence.
Yeah.
Ferreira's getting to his back way too frequently. Whether he's just comfortable being there, which is not a good idea because you're not going to be winning while someone's on your back, or there's an issue that ain't been put right in his training. But there's obviously some clinch issues going on technically there because this has become a bit of a habit. He just give his back up way too much against the fence. He's not over wrapping the arm properly. Yeah, that's not good for a guy of that caliber to be doing that kind of mistake, not only in one fight, but yet another fight.
Yeah, that's the type of mistake where when you see it in one fight, you don't expect to see it again because you'd
No,
expect it to be picked up and adapted because it
yeah,
can be so problematic and it can cause
yeah,
major issues in a fight. to put yourself in that position so easily.
Yeah, because there's other aspects of his game. He was throwing some lovely high kicks. He was standing in southpaw stance, as we see him so often do, although he fights well both ways. But he was throwing his lead right really, really nicely. He had a really lovely straight left cross. Striking wise, was looking really, really great. But that one major flaw in his clinch game, giving up that back, really led to his demise. And he's got to start putting that right, because that's going to get noticed by fighters, and they're going to be targeting for that position with him, knowing that that's something that could be exposed in his game. So, yeah, it'd be certainly interested to see him fight and how he'll fight the next time around, whether he put that wrong right.
Yeah, at the end of the first round, Ferreira kind of grabbed Pettis and he gets him back up against the cage wall again.
Yeah.
He nailed him with a few strikes in the clinch. Then they separated, and then that's when Ferreira nailed him with the a multi-punch combination or a few punches, and Ferreira scored a takedown, and he just immediately got side control, and Pettis looked in trouble. And then Ferreira kind of just postured up, but he was kicking his legs as the round ends.
Yeah.
And then obviously the second round begins with the takedown on Pettis. He gets back control relatively comfortably, really.
Yes.
Pettis did scramble and he tried to kind of get out, but Ferreira kept the top control, and then Ferreira scrambled and he regained the back control again on Pettis. So and then he beat him with the rear naked choke for the tap out. So and that ended 1 minute and 46 into round 2. So you're talking 6 minutes 46 seconds, and I think he had his back to Ferreira at least 3, maybe 4 times in that short.
That absolutely should, and that caliber of grappler as well.
But can you imagine?
Just not a good idea.
Could you imagine him giving that your backup to people like Damian Maia, and they'd have you out in seconds?
It's just not a good idea. Like I say, absolutely baffling for me to see that caliber of guy. But obviously, there's something missing regards his technical aspects and training, his fight team awareness. But like I say, it goes back to when I say Jordan listens well. When he makes mistakes in fights, and I tell him about it, he's harassing me for how do we get around this? What do we do? He wants to put it right.
Yeah, of course.
He's very aware of his mistakes. Surely his team would have made him aware that he was not very effective in the clinch when he went up against Nate. Giving up the back, but he just went and done it again. And who knows? It's a shame, because he's better than that. He really is better than that. He's talented in many areas of MMA, but you have one major fault in one area, it goes to show. You get found out and you don't put it right, you get put out again and again. He's got to be careful.
Yeah, at the top level, fighters don't need more than one kind of chink in your armor or one error. In during a fight, you only need to make that one little error. And sometimes, particularly when you fight, like the very high level grapplers or strikers or whatever, that it could be a very small error which can be your demise. But to me, this is quite a big.
Yeah, this is
these are big errors.
Absolutely, real rookie mistakes.
And he's not a rookie, is he? He shouldn't be making those mistakes.
No, absolutely shouldn't be. No, shouldn't be. Hugely experienced guy. But you notice as well, Ferreira, when he stood up, he limped away. I think it was done with that last submission. He had a really unusual position where it's like Pettis was on his side, wasn't he? And he had his leg completely underneath, and he had his foot hooked up onto the inside of Pettis's leg. And I think his hip motion down to try and pin the position as he choked him, and the weight of Pettis, I think it put a lot of pressure on his leg. So, he may well have injured himself doing that submission, but he got the win nevertheless.
I'll have a look at that. I didn't. I noticed he limped. I didn't notice that it could have been from the choke.
But do you think? Leg position.
He was holding his leg up at the very start of the fight.
Yes.
I wonder whether he had like an injury going in.
Yeah, that was my immediate thought when I saw him lifting it time and time again. I'm like, maybe
Was he that
maybe
worried about leg kicks from Pettis that?
yeah. I
You know,
mean, Pettis
he'd
normally
lose?
he kicks high, doesn't he?
Yeah,
He does kick at the legs, but he's known to kick really good high kicks, really good body kicks. Um, I wouldn't have thought it would have warranted someone coming in up on one leg like that just because Pettis kicks a little bit. So whether he
yeah.
had sore shins from training camp, because when you get a knock on your shin, they do linger and they're tender for a good number of weeks. That could have been the case for him.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Hmm.
Next up was Brian Keller versus Odie Osborne. Sorry.
All right. Yes.
This one was relatively quick. It was over 2 minutes 49 into the round one via a guillotine choke.
Right.
It was quick. There wasn't a great deal to it. The round began with Osborne immediately swinging away. Well, don't know if I'd say wildly, but he was swinging. Keller.
Yeah.
Keller was attacking Osborne with some leg kicks. Osborne was pushing forward. He attacked
Yep.
Keller with the lefts, and Keller scored a takedown, which kind of
Yeah.
that seemed to be the turning point, just to get himself
Yeah. Well, this is one of those.
relaxed.
This was one of those fights, where he was an underdog. That Keller, he was an underdog, but he's an experienced dude. He's had a lot of fights. He's been in there for nearly 30 matches. And Odie, he's only had 10 matches. I think at that point he's 8-2, something like that. His record, and looked overconfident. Now, every opponent's got the potential to beat you. So, don't muck about with anyone. That's my suggestion. I think he was a little overconfident, got a little bit too complacent, and he got defeated fairly easily. Absolute shocker. I think sometimes the fighters may look at the the ratings on being a favourite and underdog and think that's going to give them some kind of superpower while they're in there. It doesn't matter what the odds are. You've still got to get in there and get the win, and you've still got to get in there and avoid the loss. It looked like he was just overconfident, complacent, and paid the ultimate price.
Yeah, I thought he came in. He was clearly confident. He came in swinging, which I thought played into Keller's hands, because I thought Keller looked a little bit nervous at the start. Kind of Osborne was swinging, Keller was moving, and he hit him with some leg kicks. But then I thought as soon as Keller scored the takedown, he got him into like a kind of seated position, and from there I thought Keller just kind of clicked into doing what he does every day in training.
Yeah. It looked instinctual. Once he
Yes.
got that first shoot, it was all instinctual, and looked impressive as he could be with what he had in front of him. His opponent did put up a lot of a fight back, to be fair. Once he got to the positions that he's comfortable with.
No, he got him in he hit him with some ground and pound, and then he got him half guard, and then Keller caught him in this guillotine choke. Really, I'm not sure if out of nowhere is the right term, because I felt he was looking for it from the moment they've got in the seated position. As soon as he got the takedown. I thought Joe Rogan was interesting because he was saying about the guillotine choke being
he was
sort of weird from a different side to normal with the arm. Could you give us kind of any more insight into that? What they meant by that?
What about the arm in guillotine?
Yeah.
I mean, initially, arm in guillotines, can be a little harder to nail. Can be a little bit harder to actually get the outright submission. I mean, if you ever get someone's neck clean without the arm in, it's totally on the neck. But with that arm in position, it makes it particularly hard for the guy to get out of it. So you can not only be potentially choked out, it's damn hard to get your posture back through from it. It's a very, very difficult situation. So you can kind of get stalled out a little bit there. But some of these guys that are, really strong in the arm, like Keller clearly is, he can put a lot of pressure on your neck and put you out. And he clearly knows he's good at it because he set it up from a top position. Now, as a general rule, I very rarely would say for my fighters to go for a guillotine and put themselves on the back from a top position.
Yeah.
But that said, it can occur strategically towards the latter part of a round. it's a shot to nothing. It's okay if you're winning the round convincingly anyway, and you put yourself on your back for the last minute because you've got a chance at a submission. Okay, I'll go it. And that appeared to be what he thought. I think he thought, well, I've got this round. I feel like I can take him down whenever I want. I'm going to have a punt at the disarming guillotine. Performed it very well.
Yeah, he was looking for it, wasn't he? There's some fighters who almost seem to specialize in guillotine chokes. It's their go-to submission.
Yeah.
And as someone who doesn't fight and never really done any sort of fighting, or never done any fighting, at a proper level, I can't imagine that it's very pleasant when someone locks in a guillotine choke properly, and they've got the arm on the carotid artery and stuff.
Yeah. It kind of doesn't matter what kind of athlete you are. If someone restricts your neck, you go asleep or you tap. They're the two choices you've got. I think this is why Damian Maia's hung in there so long. I mean, he really shouldn't be in there when you consider his age. But the fact is, he's getting behind these young, fit athletes. He gets on their back. You got someone of Damian's level getting on your back and putting a rear naked choke on. You have to tap or go to sleep. There's no two ways about it.
There's no third option, is there? What was interesting to me is when he put the guillotine choke on, is obviously Osborne's arms were restricted, and he tapped with his foot.
Yes, he did.
You can actually see, and if you watch it again, when he taps, the ref doesn't see it because he's tapping with his foot, which, as far as I'm aware, the ref is supposed to look out for that. And he taps, and then about 5 seconds later, he taps again very, very urgently. So he could obviously feel that he was going out. And when the ref didn't see the first tap, he was very, very, you could almost see like I don't want to say a panic, but like a urgency to his tap, the second tap.
Actually, I think the ref was fairly quick on it, to be fair. I mean, it is a little bit unusual to see the foot kick down like that. The position with the arm in, he had the arm caught by the legs. He had the other arm caught in the guillotine. So he had no hands to tap with.
No. So
he did kick his foot down, and he kicked it down damn quick. But I thought the ref was fairly on it.
Yeah, he was right.
As soon as he let go, it didn't look like he was staggering about or anything. So I think he tapped with plenty of time, and it was stopped with plenty of time. It's fine.
Okay, so next up was Alexei Olenek versus Maurice Green. This was won by Olenek via submission armbar, 4 minutes 38 into round 2. Tell me about this fight, because I really, really enjoyed this.
Yeah. I'm just getting that one up now just to recap myself, because this one was surprisingly entertaining. I quite enjoyed it. Obviously, Green being a massive man, 6'7", and good striker. But look at the unusual body composition of Alexei. He's 6'2", but matches him almost in arm length. 80 inches. That's incredible. What a reach for 6'2". It was really good. I mean, I did think that Green would have been on his feet a little bit, longer than he was, being that he's so tall and rangy. But he couldn't keep him off, and he got taken down. Not with anything beautiful. It was a little bit sloppy, but he did what he always does, and he got him down. I think he got on his back, didn't he? Just before he took him down, he kept going for that hammerlock. I hear Joe Rogan saying, don't go for the arm, don't go for the arm. I mean, Joe's kind of on point with that to a certain aspect, but he's obviously wanting the submission win as well. And I enjoyed those. I enjoyed those little exchanges. I'm actually not watching it now, just recapping myself on it. A little bit smothered. What I like about Olenek's game is it goes for like the old school type scaffold positions and submissions. I think he was hanging on to him a little bit too long. I think one of them he was holding for over a minute, really trying to crank up on him. And if it ain't there in the first few seconds, you would think to let go and transition off. But maybe he felt that he had something there, but held it a little bit too long for my fancy there, and maybe burnt out his arms a little bit.
Yeah, what I enjoyed about this fight, I really, really enjoyed actually, was that Olenek was going for these kind of scarf chokes, and then all of a sudden, Green would, sort of jolt up, and he would try and hit a submission of his own from
Yeah,
a defensive position. There was one where he nearly got a triangle on, and
yeah, yeah, it was.
you could see by how quick Olenek pulled out of the triangle to how close it was to getting on, if you get what I mean.
Yeah,
Like he realized the danger he was in very
yeah,
quickly.
yeah. Green's obviously improving his ground all the time. That was a little demonstration that he can be dangerous now off his back. I think the fact that these extremely long legs of his, he's
Yeah.
learning how to use them. He was snapping his hips left and right very well as well. So I think we're going to see him, definitely evolve and be more resilient in those ground situations. Just needs to improve on his range management. Shouldn't be allowing people. It's not like Olenek's got good footwork to be able to work it, or
No.
good striking to disguise his entry. If he can't keep someone like that off him, there's definitely issues to play regards his distance managing and his footwork to avoid that clinch. We work a lot on anti-wrestling aspects. He could do with a good old dose of that. I think this will make him a much more effective fighter, clearly improving his ground. We saw with the triangle attempts and the snappiness of his hips. But, before you even hit the ground, it'd be good to show some kind of resilience. He didn't really show any true resilience for me
No.
in that clinch. Green was a little vulnerable.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, it'd be it's strange, isn't it? Because you think someone who's 6'7", 6'8", or whatever he is,
Mm,
he would try and use their reach and their striking to keep Olenek away a bit, particularly
yeah,
after that first round where
sure.
he got taken down and
Mm,
he spent a lot of time on his back or on the
yeah,
floor, and he didn't. Maybe I don't give Olenek enough credit for the way he performed, but it just felt like Green could have done a bit more to try and keep it on the feet or to try and defend himself using his reach and his
yeah,
size advantage. He seemed to end
yeah.
up against the cage wall a couple of times too easily.
Yeah. I would like to have seen some proper footwork where he's maybe trying to stick behind a jab a little bit. When he did do striking, he kind of went in with flurries, which is all well and good. But he could have just made an easier night's work for himself. Stick behind the jab, build off that jab, and just wear this guy out. The guy's 42 years old
Yeah,
and clearly had a bit of cardio issue. He looked dead on his feet at one point. I think he should have picked Olenek apart with a simple jab, built off that. Once the jab stopped the effectiveness of that potential clinch, start landing in with the cross hands and the kicks and break him up. I really think strategically it was a mess.
yeah,
Um,
I
I,
agree there.
Green's the better fighter out of the two, um, but he allowed him to play to his strengths just too much. Um, yeah, that's the main fault I would say for Green there, and a lesson for him to have improve your distance management so you can put a strategy in place against these people who want to get hold of you and drag you to the ground like he was.
Yeah, it's interesting you say there about he looked dead on his feet, in
Mm,
the second round because do feel as if Green had been able to take him deep into the third round, he really would have struggled with his cardio and he would have gassed out.
yeah, I think even Green with that really bad strategy that he was showing in the first two rounds, I think Olenek would have been so far gone regards his cardio deficit. I don't think he would have got through a third round.
No,
But
I, before the fight, Danny, though,
yeah,
I expected Green to come in and do exactly what you just said.
yeah,
Work from behind his jab and try to avoid the shoot or the takedown at
yeah,
all costs.
yeah,
Um, and that's why I was expecting going in. The size of him and everything. And I was disappointed. Not that he got taken down because Olenek is a great grappler and wrestler.
yeah,
He's got the skills to that's why he's still going at 42.
yeah,
Um, I was disappointed with the ease that he was moving and shooting this 6'8" guy down to the floor, and
I mean, you can't even say it was a shoot. He sort of like stumbled his way into the clinch. There was nothing fast about what he did. His hands weren't dangerously fast as on went in with his hands to blind the entry. Even he sort of just stumbled his way in. That was a little bit of sloppiness on part of Green. You know, if the camp's smart, they'll put that very clear wrong right. It's just a disappointing cage work. I don't want to be too hard on him because we saw some good things. I just think he's better than he showed tonight. That night, sorry.
I agree. I agree with that.
If you step back and look at the situation, you're up against a 42-year-old man who's truly a one-trick pony. Yeah, he can throw big hands, but there's nothing magical about the way on and sets up his strikes. He really had nothing much to worry about if he just played behind the fact that he's 6'7" with a huge reach. Sit behind your jab, man, and work your footwork and build off of that. It just shouldn't have been hard work.
There's a famous saying in the wrestling world, like WWE and all this sort of thing, and they say to make the characters better, they hide the negatives and accentuate the positives.
Yeah,
and that could go into fighting very easily. And Green didn't do that, should we say?
Yeah, definitely not. No,
so
things to be learnt there, but I'm sure we'll see a better Green next time around because of this performance. I'm sure.
How old is Green?
I'll have to find out right now.
I don't think he's he's not old, is he?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I'm just going to check. I've actually got it on here because I'm curious. I don't think
he is a big dude, though, isn't he?
Oh,
he's
man,
massive dude.
Absolutely big. He's 33.
He's a bit older than I thought, but I mean, these days that's not
over the hill by any stretch at that weight division.
No. Yeah. He's got some attributes which could be useful.
Yeah, absolutely.
So next up was the fight which disappointed me the most in terms of I was really looking forward to watching it, and I was really disappointed with how it went. It was Holly Holm, ranked number 3, versus Raquel Pennington, who was ranked number 5. It was the co-main event. And what was it? Holly Holm won by unanimous decision.
Yes.
And it wasn't good to watch. I got to be honest. I didn't enjoy. But you go on. Yeah. You taught me through the technical aspect of it.
Yeah, I can absolutely see why you did enjoy watching it. It was a clinch fest. Holly Holmes is obviously a really gifted kickboxer.
Yeah,
and we know Pennington's got really good hands. So we thought we were going to see a bit of a strike match. But it seems Holly Holmes really didn't want to have anything to do with trading hands too much. So she was using that becoming trademark lead leg attack, isn't it? She likes to stamp towards that knee with a side kick, which could be effective. But we didn't see her go in with the hands hardly at all. She was feinting with the hands, almost trying to avoid Pennington to come in. But then the clinch happened. We have seen Holly Holmes clinch more in recent fights. She's obviously becoming more versed in there. But like she said in the interview afterwards, which I think was a clue to why it happened, she felt good there and felt like she was getting success there and it felt easy there. So, why break the habit of a good thing? I don't think that's how her training camp was designed. I think they train obviously for the clinch to prepare her, to stay on her feet predominantly, as she normally would against most people. So she's obviously becoming comfortable there. She ended up there by chance and chose to keep going back there. But the weird thing was Pennington would take it there as well. It was not to be expected, the way the fight went between them both. And I can understand why fans were disappointed. In fact, I did hear the crowd begin to boo in the second round and the third round every time it clinched up. Me, as a MMAist, I'm particularly fascinated by the cage wrestling. And so I kind of enjoyed watching it to that point. And I mean, it wasn't a fight. It wasn't scrappy. It wasn't a technical strike fest. But I did enjoy seeing the tussle up against the fence personally.
Yeah.
But I know it's not going to be great for inducing fan factors. But I
So
was impressed with Holmes' clinch game. Much improved.
yeah, you could tell she's become a lot more comfortable there and a bit more versatile with her skills from like a year or two back.
Yeah,
Like I don't mind, like a fight which is a lot of grappling and wrestling and work on the ground. I find it interesting and
yeah,
quite fascinating, particularly when you've got, people trying to set each other up on the ground as they're moving through,
sure.
different things. But this just felt like, I don't want to say anticlimax because that feels like I'm being disrespectful to the fighters, and that's
Yeah.
not my intention.
Hmm.
But I was looking forward to this, like you said, like a bit of a strike fest.
Yes.
You got a top level kickboxer, you got a good boxer, and you're thinking,
Yeah.
this is it. This is going to be it. They're just going to bang for three
Yeah.
rounds, and whoever can nail that clean shot.
Yes, I thought I was going to see the same. I absolutely thought I was going to see the same. I knew we would see some kind of clinching going on as
Yeah,
they
of course.
traded, but never this much. But just to sort of like educate you a little bit on
Yeah.
why I found it a good thing to watch. Holmes was holding around the waist instead of up high. She was controlling the waist, which is the center part of the body. She was using a head position very well, which controlled the higher aspect of the control.
Okay.
The only thing that she could have added in, which I would have thought was better, because she was putting both feet out to apply weight with her head position to create the pinning effect, so she could chip away. But she had actually really good fundamental setups there for leg on leg takedowns. So she would have had control of the head, relatively good control of the waist with the waist hold with that right arm that she had. And she could have done some leg on leg attacks, not in terms of striking, in terms of inside and outside trips, back take attempts. And I think then you would have had a different fight because it perhaps would have got chances for Pennington to break free as she attempted the takedowns attempts. And maybe we would have seen Holly Holmes on top trying to be effective with some ground and pound, which would have made it all the more visual. But she didn't really want the takedown, it seems. She was wanting the clinch merely to try to beat her up against the fence, a little bit like Randy Couture used to do, which I think Joe Rogan may have mentioned about in that fight. I think it was, or it may have been another one. Forgive me if I'm wrong. But Joe Rogan did make a statement about Randy Couture. We
Yeah.
mustn't forget, Randy Couture didn't always want to put you down on your back. He would
No.
literally hold you against the fence and beat you up there. Yeah, it
Yeah,
was
I
kind of
think.
like she was doing a bit of that.
Do you think? I think Raquel Pennington's team, maybe they could have kind of instructed her or encouraged her to be a bit more strike heavy and try and get away from the clinch, because I don't think it
Yeah,
was doing her any favors. I thought she could have gone for those night. I thought she could have gone a bit kind of dirty boxing, if you like,
yeah,
when she was in those clinches. It felt like she didn't try and hit those strikes, while she was in the clinch enough
yeah,
to
yeah,
maybe try and put home off constantly going for that clinch.
yeah.
She could have tried to nail some shots close in, but
Sure,
then
sure.
she seemed happy to go into the clinch, which didn't really
Yeah,
make
yeah, and
sense.
that's again really. I think some of the strategies that we saw in play with numerous of the fights that night were, left us all scratching our heads a little bit. Whether the cornermans were trying to put them right in between rounds and the fighters were listening, whether the cornermen were caught up in the moment and missed the strategical errors. But yeah, you're right. Pennington was going back into the clinch game where she wasn't having much success. Although she did adapt and change her game a little bit. She started trying to get success with the tie clinch, didn't she?
Yeah,
And started hurting Holly with a few knees. And I thought, oh, maybe we're going to see a little bit of a turnaround. But the reason why Pennington couldn't do anything regards punching back was the fact that she was having her head pinned by Holly Holmes's head.
yeah,
Now, generally, if your head's being pinned, you've got to remove that head pressure. If you can remove that head pressure, you're going to have a bit more leverage behind your clinch punching, and you take some of the pinning effect off. You've got more chance of doing a body-to-body turn, which you did see. You saw a couple of turns, and if you notice, whenever they do the turns, their head position is no longer head-to-head. Their heads become on each other's shoulder. So for Pennington, she could have got a much more better chance of having offensive striking in that clinch by removing the head pressure, and in turn turning Holly Holmes against the fence a lot more often, at least making it more close. So yeah, some lessons to be learned for both of them really. I don't think Holly Holmes was very happy with her performance either. I think she could have been more effective than she was.
Yeah, I think she felt like she'd done enough to win, but maybe hadn't been at her high level that she, expects of herself. It was scored 29, 28, 30, 27, 30, 27.
Yeah.
Would you have said that was about right?
About right, yeah.
30,
About
20,
right,
I think
yeah.
30, 27 was probably a fair
Yeah.
score, to be honest, because
Absolutely, yeah.
I didn't think Pennington did enough to get close, really.
No, she did well in the latter half of the second round. She started scoring some of those knees, and like I say, I thought we was going to see a bit of a turnaround, but the clinch really quickly ensued again, and we began to see a pattern, which we quite often do with fights. Once patterns are fitted in, that seems to be the way it goes for the rest of the match. And that's what we saw.
How difficult is it for a fighter in the moment to break patterns as they develop in fights and do something completely different?
Yeah. I mean, you get different fight IQs. So someone like GSP, if for whatever reason something wasn't going quite his own way, he would definitely adapt himself naturally. He's a very intelligent fighter, and also having a really intelligent camp, but no, corner team. But no matter how smart your corner team, the fighter's got to respond to what you suggest to them.
Yeah.
And that's hard for me to gauge on whether that's why some of the issues were happening. Yeah, I mean, I can only give my perspective. If I was Pennington, I would have been saying, get that head out of position. You can use your hand, shift it off. Don't let the head pin you. That'll give you much better chance of trying to turn yourself off the cage and put in Holly Holm against the cage and open up some chance for some counter striking in that clinch. But the whole time your head's pinned like that, you're going to be the one receiving those annoying little hits, which ain't damaging, but they're scoring nevertheless. And every second that goes by with your back against that fence while your head's pinned like that, you're losing that round.
Indeed. So as we move on to the main event, obviously we saw in the main event as well that you can do damage from the clinch, even if your arms are pinned. So the main event was welterweight. It was Connor McGregor versus Donald Cerrone. Connor McGregor's first fight for well over a year.
Mm-hmm.
Well, wow, what a return!
Yeah, what a return. When I liked listening to, you could go on YouTube and watch everyone's take on how they thought the fight was going to go. All the other UFC fighters, and as much as you did have people, for Cerrone, and you had people for Connor, all for the obvious reasons. Connor fast starter, Cerrone having the better cardio, being the bigger man. There was just as many, if not more, that sat on the fence said, I just don't know.
Yeah.
And, push comes to shove, I didn't know. I remember you really pushed me on it.
I did. Yeah.
And I went, and just because it was at 170 pounds, I just thought, well, Connor's got to put him away. Can he put him away? Yeah, he can. But I wouldn't want to know that that's what I had to do to win a fight. I have to finish him. I think it'd be nice to know that you can just get ahead and stay ahead and know that you can win through the whole duration of the fight. But Connor did what Connor does, but he was so creative in that clinch. Whether he trains to do that or not, it appears that he does, because he rolled his shoulder up first, and then he jumped it. He jumped the shoulder in and broke Cerrone's nose. I mean, what great creative thing to do, and to such effect. I think that was start of the tumbling of Cerrone in the fight. He broke his nose. That makes you not want to engage. He threw the head kick, which is becoming a bit signature for Cerrone. But obviously, Connor, expected that. It was there to cover, fired back with his own head kick. Cerrone's arm had left his face a little bit too far. If you look at the slow-mo, Cerrone's got a Thai boxing background, and they can have their arms a little bit away from their head. His arm come away from his head, and that foot reached round, didn't it? He caught some of the shin on his arm, but the arm was to no blocking effect.
No. And then he
that started a process.
knee then, didn't he?
That early against a fresh Conor McGregor, that accurate, and that much heavier now. Ooh, bad combination. Bad combination.
Yeah, I think it couldn't have gone any better for McGregor unless he had done what he did to Aldo. Really, that was the only way it was going
Yeah,
to be better.
yeah,
But this is, I said to you off air at the start, this is the Conor McGregor that everybody wanted to see fight Khabib, the
yeah,
aggressive, the creative Conor McGregor. Like, over the years we've seen Conor McGregor do some incredibly creative things, in how he fights and how
yeah.
he goes up against different opponents and comes up with ways to set them up or to beat them or to do things. And like that, those shoulder strikes, they in some ways to me they're more incredible than the head kick which ended up flooring him,
Yeah,
because he broke his nose and rattled a fighter of Donald Cerrone's experience,
yeah,
quality. Donald Cerrone's a Hall of Famer, a
yeah,
UFC Hall of Famer. Absolutely, there's no doubt about it.
yeah.
He's on the back of a couple of losses, but before that he was on a winning streak.
He was on a
He
tear.
is, he's no slouch. He's perfectly capable of beating Conor McGregor on any given day if he
Yeah,
is, his things go his way. So for him to rattle him the way he did with a
mm,
shoulder in the clinch, or
yeah,
three, I think it was three, but there was the one where he kind of jumped into it, didn't he?
yeah,
And he broke his nose. And then he just followed it up, and the head kick rattled him, knocked him down. He hit
yeah.
like a flying knee then, which caught him, I think, on the side of the jaw.
Yeah,
And I thought actually that probably did more to disorientate him than the kick did,
mm,
in a strange
yeah,
sort of
yeah.
way.
I'm in total agreement with you. I think the spark that set off the fire was those shoulder strikes. I think it broke his nose. Now, if anyone's had their nose broke, you can break it in a good way or a bad way. But being broken with emotion coming up, that ain't a comfortable
Yeah.
experience. I've had mine done that way, and it ain't nice. So that's going to hurt and that's going to disorientate you. That was certainly more impressive than just a simple old head kick.
Yeah. See
um,
them all the time.
yeah, because it was creative, it was different, and it was a way of Connor utilising the fact that he was going to give away size in terms of height. He was considerably shorter than Cerrone, so he had that space between his shoulder and Cerrone's head. Cerrone notoriously stands tall, whether he's in striking or clinch, so there was that gap there. He created that extra little space with this first little shoulder butt, and as his head come up, he then closed that distance with the complete body jump with the shoulder. I mean, whether it's an instinctual thing, a pre-planned training thing, I don't know, but he seems to come up with answers and things that people don't expect. Cerrone even said himself afterwards, he caught me with something and it hurt me. It broke my nose. I was a bit shocked. He caught him all unawares. Well done, Connor. I'm glad he's back. I mean, out of the two, I'm a big, massive fan of both. But for a fan's perspective, I know we could potentially see a lot more interesting matchups with Connor than we could with Cerrone. Cerrone's been in there, done it with so many great people. He'll always have a great following and great interest seeing who he fights. But like you've said, with the numbers that Connor draws, it would be more interesting. And he's young enough to still have a good few years in it if he wishes to. I know he's going to have one solid year. I'd like to see him have more than that if this 2020 is as successful as I'm hoping it's going to be for him. I want to see him back in contention. I want to see him fight the Fergusons, and I would like to see him fight Khabib again at some point. Just not right now. I want to see him fight Masvidal. I mean, I think that will be huge. I think that would break record seeing him fight Masvidal for
Yeah,
that bad boy
well,
belt. Why not?
if you think you got the Masvidal fight, you got um, the Diaz trilogy fight, you've got
Yeah,
the Khabib fight. That's
yeah,
three fights which are unbelievable straight
yeah,
away off the bat without even thinking about anyone else.
yeah.
I saw someone say yesterday on social media that they would like to see him fight Gaethje now. In sort of the next month or two,
Okay.
and then
Yeah,
because I think they want to do Masvidal versus someone else. I can't remember who it was. Usman, maybe? I don't
yeah,
know. So basically, it was implying that if Ferguson obviously fights Khabib in the next, I think it's next month, is it, or the month after?
yeah.
and then you have Masvidal fight someone else, there's like a period of time where Connor could get another fight in. So rather than him waiting for one of those two, have him fight Gaethje, and
that would be
fight.
good.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah,
And I know Connor said he would like to fight 4 times this year. So I mean,
yeah,
he
yeah.
could, realistically.
If he's getting quick wins like that, you could see him fight again in a matter of weeks. It could be 6 weeks. You could be seeing this guy fight again. It's obviously down to the fact that you just got to get a willing opponent. But I think most will be willing because they know they're going to get a damn good payday out of it. And they're all fighters. They're not going to be running scared. They know he's beatable for one. They know they're going to get a massive payday too. It's a win-win for any opponent that faces him.
Yeah. So one of the questions that we had was, who should the UFC put McGregor in next? So
yeah, if he stays at 170,
if you were booking it, who would you do next?
Yeah, Masvidal. Yeah, I'd say that.
And what would a welterweight?
Yeah, he's just had this huge success, and let's see him do that one. I think that'll create a lot of interest.
Who wins?
I don't know. I was wrong when I was pushed, wasn't I? Going against Connor, he's just hard to bet against. But Masvidal to me has got more tools overall. Oh my God, do I go against him again? No. You know what? I think Connor getting that win is going to make him confident. I'm going to say he's going to nail Masvidal. I'm going to go Connor McGregor this time.
Good shout.
Yeah.
I got to say, I've always said this, is if Conor McGregor is fit, healthy, and motivated, I will never bet against him.
He's hard to bet against, isn't he? Just hard to bet
because he is always gone against the grain. He's always gone against what you think when he's come up against fighters. They said it about Eddie Alvarez. They said it about Aldo. They said, "Oh, he's coming up against a real wrestler now." Or Chad Mendes. It was like when he comes up against a real wrestler or a real star or a real fighter, these guys, they'll take him apart. They'll show him up. He's just a good left hand, and every time he would just destroy those three. Those three in particular, he just decimated.
He did.
And Conor McGregor is good for MMA because you look at the buzz around MMA generally now after last night compared to what it was just before Christmas.
Yeah.
Even with that big show that you had, UFC 245, fantastic show, loaded card. There was a lot of hype, but it's not the same without Conor McGregor.
Yeah.
At the top of his game.
Yeah, I think I don't know. It's like it's like having a party without that guy there. That's the soul of the party.
Yeah,
if you know what I mean. It'll still be a party nevertheless, and people still be laughing and having a good time. But Conor is the heart and soul of the here and now at the moment, and that time that he had absence, it did leave a little bit of a hole regards to the attention. For UFC, it's still great matchups, still a great party, but when Connor's there, it's a little bit better, don't you think? I certainly think so.
I do as well. I'm really looking forward to it. Really, I want him to fight again.
Yeah, me too. I want to see him.
It's just good, isn't
it? And I do hope that he has more success because it's just so interesting. There's so many interesting matchups. I want to see him against other good strikers, and he's predominantly done extremely well. Maybe a little bit later down the line, see him face another wrestler who's potentially going to try and spoil the highlight reel that we're getting from him. But I'm happy with what I've seen. I'm really excited for his future for 2020. I just hope we see him back really, really soon because he's fit and healthy. It will keep him in camp, and I think he'll have a roll off of this success.
Yeah, I think the best thing for everyone concerned is to keep him ready to fight, and almost like the worst thing that he could do is have another year off, isn't it? Like you want to see he needs to fight like 2 or 3 times this year.
Oh, yeah. I think he's going to be committed to a 2020. That's what he's talking about, and he seems hell bent on having a season for 2020.
Yeah,
he's going to be working hard this year. I have no doubt about it. I just don't want there to be any kind of gap in between his camps for him to get up to any mischief. Because
well, he did say he was going to have a party, last night, and then he was
Yeah.
going straight back into camp on Monday
Yeah, I
morning.
think that's a good call, and hopefully we are going to see a more mature Connor. We do seem to be with the interviews. He was out of the limelight a little bit more in terms of the amount of interviews and that he was doing leading up to the fight. But every time I heard him speak, it was a mature Connor,
Yeah.
a more realistic Connor.
He has said he absolutely doesn't think Ferguson and Khabib will happen again. Obviously, it's been arranged. I think it's 4 times, and four times has fallen through. And he has said that he will stay within weight. He'll be prepared. He'll be in camp, so when it falls through, he can take it.
Yeah.
And why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you have Conor McGregor waiting there to?
Yeah.
Normally, if they've got a backup, they have that person in a fight on the on the card, so that they can just then rearrange the card a bit.
Yeah.
But I mean, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, exactly. And it's not like that they've got to go through big negotiations regards money, because he's got loads of it. So that's not going to be. I'm sure he'll still force the fact that he'll want a good payday. He's going to get a good payday no matter what. But fair play to him. I mean, this guy does seem absolutely fearless. He always wants to face the best, and he's always pretty gracious in defeat. When he gets defeated, he accepts it. You can't say that he don't put. You can't say that he puts an excuse to any of his losses. You can't say he dodges fights. He wants the hardest ones, and for that fact, I really respect the guy. And you'll hear me repeat. I've not been a fan of his antics outside, but putting all that aside, looking at him as an MMA entity, he's been awesome for the sport. All the fighters, I think, are getting paid more because of him.
Yeah.
I think UFC is being watched on an unprecedented scale because of him. He's just good all round for the sport. Absolutely is.
Spot on, mate. So let's finish off with a couple of questions. In Dana's post UFC 246 presser, he was asked whether Conor McGregor could fight in the UK, maybe Wembley or the Millennium Stadium. From a British MMA point of view, how big would Conor McGregor fight in either of these venues?
Absolute good call. I think this will be really, really good. Obviously, we're just a step away from Ireland, so we'll have them all come over. It's going to be successful. No matter where you do it. You could do it at Timbuktu, it'd be successful. But to do it so close to Ireland, it's going to be huge. Yeah, get it done in England. I think that'd be great. I'll be there.
I have to say, if they did Conor McGregor in the Millennium Stadium in Cardiff, that would be incredible.
Oh, yeah.
Incredible stadium.
Really, really good.
I would love that. But I just wonder whether if they're going to do it, they'd end up doing it in Dublin just because he's Irish.
Yeah, you would think that would make sense that they'd do it and it'd become essential to do it. But of course, it'd be great if they do it in the UK. It really would.
Yeah, Wembley or the Millennium Stadium, both would be incredible.
Yeah.
Okay. I think it's Gaz asked, how good is Modestas now going into his first year in the UFC, and how good can he be in the years to come with hard work?
Yeah. Okay. So Modestas is he's got a lot of improving to do. But that being said, don't take that to be that he's suddenly easy to beat now. I'm just saying to any fighter, if you want to beat him, you have to beat him now, because in a few years he's going to be that standout that you will not be beaten. The guy improves almost on a weekly basis. I've never seen someone so hungry. He turned up to my classes in Northampton. He travels all the way up from London to do it, even leading right up just before Christmas when the classes were dying down. There was hardly anyone up there. He still wanted to come up and do drilling. He still wanted to come up and ask me questions. The kid is a sponge. He's asking so many questions. He's almost an irritant to me there, but I really don't mean that. But just to put things in perspective, he's hungry to learn, and he always wants to put things in play. He knows how to train smart. This guy can put a lot of guys out in sparring, but he'll tone down on his power. He'll play with the new aspects. He'll put himself in weaker positions by sparring his MMA, or he'll look for the takedowns, which is not what you've seen of him yet. But trust me, this kid can wrestle already. Trust me, this kid can grapple already. You just haven't had the chance to even see it yet, because at the minute he's putting everyone away on his feet. There will be times you'll be seeing him take people down and choose to submit them. You will be seeing times where he'll be putting people down and ground and pounding them. He'll choose where he wants to put it, or he'll leave it to the opponent to decide where he wants to put it, and he'll just beat them wherever they choose it as well. He's going to be all-rounded. I think he's going to be the next big thing.
Spot on. I'm going to cut that and put it as a little clip, because that was good. But yeah, so Johnny asks, what's your views on Welsh fighter Jack Shaw? Is he a future champion or just a solid fighter?
Well, but I think both of those potentially. He's definitely a solid fighter. I think there's exciting times for this guy. I think he's doing really, really well. He's still unbeaten, right? So
yeah,
he's got to be doing something right. 12-0, I think he is. Is it 12-0 he is now?
Yeah, I think so. I'll have to double check.
He's racking them up. He's doing well.
Yeah, I mean, he's coming to the UFC. His UFC debut was super impressive.
Yeah.
And he beat, obviously your first fight to the UFC, they're not going to give you, a Connor McGregor or a Henry Cejudo or whoever. They're not going to give you the top guy. You've got to work your way up, and you've got to
absolutely.
do
so
it. But you can only beat who's in front of you. And for his Jack Shaw's debut in the UFC, he pretty much destroyed his opponent. He couldn't have done much more.
No.
And I'd be interested to see, because from everything which I know of him and from watching him and everything from people I've spoken to, and even what Dana White said, how many people do you see sign for the UFC as like young guys, and Dana White say that they're basically the next big thing, and they're the the next big huge star from the UFC, from the UK. He doesn't really talk about these guys when they first sign.
That's right. It's true. Yeah, Dana White. I know Dana White does always speak his mind, and he always speaks truthfully and honestly. But you don't hear him very often talk so highly of someone off the cuff. He clearly sees some talent in this kid. Dana White's been around it for a long, long time. He knows his stuff, and I think when he says something about a fighter, such as he said about Jack Shaw, people should sit up and listen. I think he's not wrong. I think he's onto something, and we are going to see bigger things from him.
Yeah, I think so. I hope so as well. I want to see these guys. There's a group of British fighters at the moment who are coming up, who could do something special, in the biggest companies in the world.
Yeah,
the likes of Jack and Tom and Modestas and Paddy Pimblett, and all these guys can really do something special for the British MMA scene.
Yeah,
in the biggest companies in the world. I really believe that.
Oh, UK are on the world map regards producing talent. We're seeing it time and time again now. Before it used to be the odd one here and there, but we're breaking through on the mainstream on a real regular basis now. We're up there. We're contenders.
Yeah, definitely. With this question, kind of goes into what we're doing. So next week we're doing another show where we're going to be talking about the UFC Fight Night card from next Saturday, where Brett Johns is fighting, and there's a couple of other quite good fights actually. But the main reason I wanted to cover it is because obviously Brett's been on the show. He's a Welsh fighter, he's a British fighter, so we wanted to watch the UFC card and we'll cover it as we do these. So the question is from Johnny, who is also Welsh. He says, Brett Johns has said himself that he's fighting for his UFC job next week after a couple of losses. Mm-hmm. If he wins, how far could he go, and who would you pair him up with?
Yeah, to say how far he'd go, that's a real hard one, isn't it?
Of course. It's a fight
say
game.
When he's had such a difficult start in UFC. I think we haven't seen his potential, unfortunately. And he's got a difficult opponent as well. I mean, the guy's on a several fight win streak. How many is he? I've got his record down on. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's got 5 or 6 wins in a row recently. His opponent.
No messing.
Not in easy, but is he capable of winning? Yeah, I think Brett Johns is absolutely capable of winning. I don't know, really what's the issue on why he's got those two. He's not exactly lost against, people who are useless by any stretch. They're damn good opponent. He's not had an easy run of it. I think the good thing that he can take from this next fight is that, if he does feel that this is going to be the make or break, it's not to be tentative. It's to, if you're going to go out of UFC, go out with fight of the night or something. Even if you lose, I think he should give it his all. And I think that might be the case that you'll see him take the win over this guy.
Yeah, I kind of think, not just with Brett, but with anyone really, is that if you in that position where you've got nothing to lose, that can be a benefit, because suddenly you lose all those kind of emotions and feelings of not doubt necessarily, but like confliction, where you're not sure whether you should play it safe and just do your thing and see how the fight develops, or this, that, and just different aspects of it, almost overthink it. Whereas if you're in this position where you've kind of got nothing to lose, or you feel like you've got nothing to lose, then you just go in and do your thing and go for it, and like you say, go out swinging, go out on your shield almost, isn't it? And make sure I think the biggest thing is, don't have any regrets. Don't finish the fight after 3 rounds, lose on decision, and feel like, I should have done this, or I should have done that. Don't have any regret. Don't have any regrets.
You're right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think the worst thing that he can do is to put himself under pressure and then try to do everything right, if you know what I mean. I think rather than try to do everything right, I think is to push a pace, to push a strategy that's going to create imperfections in your opponent's game, to kind of overwhelm him, override him, without being ridiculous. You wouldn't go out and sprint your first 400 meters of a marathon race. I'm not saying do that by any stretch, but certainly get yourself in a certain condition to be explosive and to hit this guy's many difficult technical aspects of your game in flurries, to try to force an error in the game. I think if he does this, he stands a chance. But if he tries to be sure-footed, it could go against him. Yeah, so get in there and fight like it might be your last ever fight. Give it his all.
Indeed. So that is the show. We will be back next week to review UFC Fight Night 166, featuring Brett Johns as well as many other fights. And myself and Danny will be back to cover that. Danny does not have a Twitter, so you cannot follow him there, but you can follow me on Twitter at ACEcast_nation. And please go to YouTube, subscribe to the channel, click the bell so you get notified every time we upload new content, new shows. That's the best and most direct way to support us at the moment. You can also get audio versions at iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, basically everywhere you can get podcasts. And facebook.com/AceCastNation. If you're interested in MMA training, check out Danny's gym, which is the BST gym, BST Academy. I do apologize. It's bstacademy.co.uk for the website. And obviously check out our sponsors, Away Day Apparel, for your clothing needs. And the code will be in the description for the episode. Danny, anything you want to add before we leave?
No, other than a big thank you, Si. This is always a pleasure for me to talk about something that I'm so passionate about. It's my job. It's my love. Thank you for the opportunity just to be able to talk about it. We created a good friendship between us as well. So I'm always happy to add to my friends list. And I'll see everyone next time around, which is next week.
Yeah. Thank you, Danny. Pleasure's all mine. And guys, we'll see you next week.